The gaslights of London flickered, casting long, dancing shadows across the packed theater. Every seat was filled, every eye fixed on the stage. The air crackled with anticipation for the grand finale of The Great Alistair, the most celebrated magician of his time. His masterpiece was a trick so daring, so fraught with peril, it was called the Watery Grave. A massive glass tank, filled to the brim with water, dominated the center of the stage. Alistair, with a confident smile, allowed himself to be bound in heavy chains and padlocked. With a dramatic flair, he was lowered into the tank, the lid slammed shut, and secured with a series of complex locks. A heavy velvet curtain was drawn, and a thunderous drum roll began, counting down the seconds of his impossible escape. The audience held its breath. 1 minute, 2 minutes. The drumming intensified, a frantic heartbeat echoing the growing tension in the room. 3 minutes. The music swelled to a crescendo, the drum roll stopped, and the curtain rose. Silence. A collective gasp rippled through the crowd. Then, a scream. Inside the tank, Alistair was still there, his body limp, his face a silent mask of horror. The chains were still locked. He had not escaped. The great Alistair was dead. The headlines the next morning screamed of a tragic accident. A master illusionist, defeated by his own creation. Scotland Yard conducted a swift investigation and closed the case. A trick gone wrong, they said. But Mr. Abernathy, the theatre owner, and an old acquaintance of my friend, Dr. Watson, wasn't convinced. He sensed a darker current beneath the surface, a malevolent hand at play. And so it was that on a fog-draped evening, Sherlock Holmes and I found ourselves standing on the very stage where Alistair had met his end. The theatre was cavernous and silent, a ghost of its recent boisterous self. The Watery Grave tank stood under a single work light, its water now still and clear. Holmes circled it like a shark, his keen grey eyes missing nothing. He ran his long, slender fingers over the glass, the lid, the formidable locks. To my untrained eye, everything seemed perfectly normal, just as the police had found it. There were no signs of forced entry, no broken parts, no evidence of foul play. The police saw an accident, Watson, Holmes murmured, more to himself than to me. They saw what they were meant to see, but they did not observe. He crouched low, his gaze fixed on the intricate brass padlock that had sealed Alistair's fate. Our investigation turned to the people who moved in Alistair's orbit. The cast and crew were a tapestry of professional smiles and hidden resentments. First, we spoke with Isabel, the magician's beautiful assistant. Her eyes, though red-rimmed from what I presumed was grief, held a guarded, evasive quality. She recounted the events of that night with a practiced precision, her voice a soft, hypnotic whisper. It was a perfect performance, she insisted. Every beat, every movement was flawless. Alistair was at the top of his game. I don't understand what happened. The routine never changed. She spoke of Alistair with a reverence that felt almost too perfect, a carefully constructed eulogy. When Holmes pressed her about her relationship with the magician, her composure faltered for just a second. A flicker of something, fear, anger, crossed her face before being smoothed over once more. Next was Silas, the stage manager, a gruff, hulking man with calloused hands and a permanent scowl. Unlike Isabel, Silas made no attempt to hide his feelings. "Good riddance," he grunted, not even bothering to look up from the rope he was coiling. Alistair was an arrogant tyrant, treated us all like dirt beneath his polished shoes. Am I sad he's gone? Not in the slightest. A startling admission, but Silas had an alibi as solid as the stage he managed. He was in the wings, in full view of a dozen stage hands, from the moment the curtain fell until the moment it rose on the horrifying scene. He couldn't have tampered with the tank during the performance. I may have hated the man, Silas sneered, but I'm no murderer. His own ego is what killed him. He pushed the limits too far. Holmes thanked him politely and we moved on, but I could see the gears turning in my friend's extraordinary mind. He was assembling the pieces, separating performance from reality, illusion from truth. Everyone had a role to play in the theater, but someone had played the part of a killer. We returned to the stage, the silence of the empty hall pressing in on us. Holmes once again knelt before the water tank, this time producing his powerful magnifying glass. He ignored the main body of the lock and focused intently on the tiny, intricate keyhole. I watched, perplexed, as he spent minute after silent minute examining an area no bigger than a shilling. The police had already declared the lock untampered with. What could he possibly hope to find? "Watson, come here, and bring the lantern closer." I did as he asked, holding the light steady. He pointed with the tip of a pair of tweezers. "Look," he said, his voice low and electric with discovery. "Here." I squinted, leaning in until my nose almost touched the cold brass. At first, I saw nothing. Then, under the focused beam of the lantern and the magnification of Holmes's lens, I saw it. A scratch. It was infinitesimally small, a hairline fracture in the polished metal right beside the keyhole, almost invisible to the naked eye. It was a mark so subtle that anyone not specifically looking for it would have missed it entirely. The police certainly had. A slight imperfection, I noted, perhaps from the key itself? Perhaps, Holmes replied, his eyes gleaming, but a key, used correctly, does not scratch. It glides. He leaned in closer, his own nose now inches from the lock. He took a long, slow sniff. He closed his eyes for a moment, processing. Then he opened them again, a look of triumphant understanding dawning on his face. "What is it, Holmes?" I asked, my heart beginning to race. He looked up at me, the dim light of the theater reflecting in his intense eyes. "Watson," he said, "do you smell that?" I leaned in and inhaled. Faint, almost imperceptible, but undeniably there. A sweet, cloying aroma like almonds or marzipan. It was a scent I vaguely recognized but couldn't place. Holmes stood up, a thin, grim smile playing on his lips. He turned to face the empty, silent rows of theater seats, as if addressing a phantom audience. "The police were wrong, Watson. This was no accident. The stage manager was wrong. It was not Alistair's ego that killed him. And Isabel," he paused, "was lying. This was not a flawless performance." He tapped the lock with his tweezers, the light glinting off the tiny damning scratch. This lock wasn't simply locked. It was sabotaged, tampered with in such a diabolically clever way that from the outside it appeared perfect, but from the inside, it was impossible to open. He let the revelation hang in the air, the terrible weight of it sinking in. "The trick didn't fail," Sherlock Holmes declared, his voice echoing in the vast empty space. "It was a murder, executed to perfection. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this mystery, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more adventures. We'll see you next time.